Kona, Alaska. The project is called HARP.
HARP is the High Frequency Active Auroral Research Project, originally a joint effort of the Air Force and Navy in cooperation with a number of academic institutions.
It is today the world's largest radio broadcasting station, but it's not designed to broadcast for human ears. It uses unique patented ability to focus the energy coming out of the antenna field and injects that energy into a spot at the very top of the atmosphere in a region called the ionosphere. Injects that energy into a spot at the very top of the atmosphere in a region called the ionosphere. To focus the energy coming out of the antenna field and injects that energy into a spot at the very top of the atmosphere in a region called the ionosphere. To focus the energy coming out of the antenna field and injects that energy into a spot at the very top of the atmosphere in a region called the ionosphere. To focus the energy coming out of the antenna field and injects that energy into a spot at the very top of the atmosphere in a region called the ionosphere.
HARP is comprised of 180 antennas, approximately 72 feet tall, linked together to function as one giant steerable antenna. Steerable because it can aim millions of watts of ELF waves into one tiny patch of the atmosphere.
The amount of energy we're talking about here is the amount of energy we're
tiny patch of the atmosphere. Aim millions of watts of ELF waves into one tiny patch of the atmosphere. Aim millions of watts of ELF waves into one tiny patch of the atmosphere. Aim millions of watts of ELF waves into one tiny patch of the atmosphere. Steerable because it can aim millions of watts of ELF waves into one tiny patch of the atmosphere. Steerable because it can aim millions of watts of ELF waves into one tiny patch of the atmosphere.
The amount of energy we're talking about here is 3.6 million watts. To give you an idea of what that is, the largest legal AM radio station in North America is 50,000 watts. HARP is 72,000 50,000 watt radio stations, injecting their entire output into a spot that's about 12 miles across by about 2.5 miles deep by about 90 miles up.
This is where HARP is pointing. It's an area located roughly 300 miles from Anchorage. The U.S. military says HARP is merely being used to study the physical and electrical properties and behavior of the ionosphere for both civilian and defense purposes. But another theory has surfaced. The intense energy being beamed into the sky by HARP is actually heating up the atmosphere, causing weather changes.
HARP is being used for weather modification. The military's own record proves it. They've admitted it within their own documents, and yet they still deny it to the public.
Dr. Brooks Agnew has researched ELF wave technology for the past 30 years and is convinced HARP's effect on the ionosphere does alter the weather.
HARP couldn't affect the jet stream directly, but indirectly it could, because if you push the ionosphere out into space, then the stratosphere just under the ionosphere has to move to fill in that gap. When it moves, it could pull the jet stream with it, thus rerouting it hundreds of miles, changing the way water moves through our atmosphere.
Now guys, this is a camera from Croatia. Now just pay attention to this line of discharge, yeah? Here there are two more. For free. Anyway, it's another red spread, yeah? Now this camera, I haven't looked on a map, but it's also on Croatia. This is the Reb Island. Now here, it's another huge build-up of energy. We cannot see the discharge because maybe it doesn't occur in front of the camera, but we can see the overall picture, yeah? So just take a look. Now for me it's clear. These are the energetic particles coming from NIBIRU system. Problem is, do they have the possibility to discharge, to choose the points where the discharge to take place? As we've seen on the cameras, it seems they don't have this possibility. But they are controlling the weather, yeah? So
day, and now we're learning that scientists and researchers are looking at how to change the weather on purpose. That's right, lasers now could one day manipulate rain and lightning. CBS This Morning contributor Michio Kaku is a physics professor at City College of New York. Professor Kaku is a physics professor at City College. Rain and lightning. CBS rain and lightning. CBS rain and lightning. CBS rain and lightning. CBS This Morning. Day manipulate rain and lightning. 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 CBS This Morning contributor Michio Kaku is a physics professor at City College of New York. Professor, nice to see you. Extraordinary seeing Al Gore and Bill Clinton there together with Charlie, wasn't it?
That's right, yeah.
Yeah, they did not get into this discussion,
No.
though. But it is fascinating. I mean, lasers, really, to change the weather?
That's right. Well, as Mark Twain once famously said, everyone complains about the weather, but no one ever does anything about it. Well, instead of doing a rain dance, we physicists are firing trillion-watt lasers into the sky to actually precipitate rain clouds and actually bring down lightning bolts. This is potentially a game changer.
But this is experimental.
It's experimental. However, in the laboratory so far it works. When you have water vapor and you have dust particles or ice crystals, you can precipitate rain. it condenses around the seeds. These seeds can also be created by laser beams. By firing trillion-watt lasers, you rip apart the electrons, creating what are called ions, and these ions act like seeds, like dust particles, bringing down rain and even lightning.
Go ahead.
Well, this fascinates me in part because, too, I remember...
Go ahead.
Well, this fascinates...
Rain and even lightning.
Go ahead.
Well,
bringing down rain and even lightning. 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 Bringing down rain and even lightning.
Go ahead.
Ions act like seeds, like dust particles, bringing down rain electrons, creating what are called ions, and these ions act like seeds, like dust particles, bringing down rain and even lightning. If you rip apart the electrons, creating what are called ions, firing trillion-watt lasers, you rip apart the electrons, creating what are called ions, and these ions act like seeds, like dust particles, bringing down rain and even lightning. Firing trillion-watt lasers, you rip apart the electrons, creating what are called ions, and these ions act like seeds, like dust particles, bringing down rain and even lightning. Firing trillion-watt lasers, you rip apart the electrons, creating what are called ions, and these ions act like seeds, like dust particles, bringing down rain and even lightning.
Go ahead.
Well, this fascinates me in part because, too, I remember reading the stories that China had used this during the Olympics, that the USSR had used this after Chernobyl to create rain clouds. I mean, did those really work then? We have some of these capabilities now?
Inconclusive. Even in the 60s, the CIA used this to bring down monsoons during the Vietnam War, to wash out the Viet Cong. Governments have been playing with this thing.
Alleged to.
Alleged to, right.
Yeah.
Now, we realize that for decades now, these governments have been alleged to have experimented with weather control, but nothing conclusive. This time we're bringing in the laws of physics rather than simply waving our hands and uttering mumbo-jumbo. We're actually using trillion-watt lasers now. And in the laboratory, sure enough, they precipitate rain out of water vapor. Sure enough, you can actually bring down electricity down the beam.
So what does it mean for drought areas that need to have rain for crops? And so what does it mean for drought areas that need to...
Down the beam.
So what does it mean?
Bring down electricity down the beam. Sure enough, you can actually bring down electricity down the beam.
So what does it mean for...
Sure enough, you can actually bring down electricity down the beam.
So what does it mean?
Rain out of water vapor. Sure enough, you can actually bring down electricity down the beam.
So what...
Rain out of water vapor. Sure enough, you can actually bring down electricity down the beam.
So what is...
And in the laboratory, sure enough, they precipitate rain out of water vapor. Sure enough, you can actually bring down electricity down the beam.
So what is it?
And in the laboratory, sure enough, they precipitate rain out of water vapor. Sure enough, you can actually bring down electricity down the beam.
So what does it mean for...
No, this is U.S. subcommittee hearing.
Senator, the Air Force has gotten great value out of HARP in the past. We took over from the Navy and managed it and actually did a number of experiment campaigns up there and have finished our work that we were interested in doing up there. We've moving on to other ways of managing the ionosphere, which the HARP was really designed to do, was to inject energy into the ionosphere to be able to actually control it. And but that work has been ways of managing the ionosphere. Moving on to other ways of managing the ionosphere. We've moving on to other ways of managing the ionosphere, which the HARP was really designed to do, was to inject energy into the ionosphere to be able to actually control it. And but that work has been completed. We've moving on to other ways of managing the ionosphere, which the HARP was really designed to do, was to inject energy into the ionosphere to be able to actually control it. And but that work has been completed. The Air Force, we've moving on to other ways of managing the ionosphere, which the HARP was really designed to do. We've moving on to other ways of managing the ionosphere, which the HARP was really designed to do, was to moving on to other ways of managing the ionosphere, which the HARP was really designed to do, was to inject energy into the ionosphere, be able to actually control it. And, but that work has been completed. The Air Force has maintained the site for other government agencies to use for several years now. And with DARPA completing their project, that's our last government customer that we have in the site. We have put out a call government-wide for other agencies that had interest in managing the site or taking it over, including going out to academia and seeing if there was any interest there. We have gotten interest from the university in Fairbanks. However, the interest we have is that they will run it if we fund it, which is unfortunately in this fiscal environment we're in right now, this is not an area that we have any need for in the future, and don't see that it would be good use of Air Force S&T funds in the future.
Okay, so they are looking to rent the HARP facility situated in Alaska, yeah? This is nice. Why? Because they moved to some other ways. Now, I will ask him about this, but it's clear that the senators, they weren't so curious as I am, which are these new ways of controlling the ionosphere. Could it be the satellites? It could be the International Sun Simulator, which was weaponized. Now, I don't know either, so I don't know what to tell you, but let's go further and see what's going on. So they make the weather, yeah. Okay, now these are two cameras from Mexico, yeah. And as you see, we have two planets visible here, yeah. I mean, I believe it's just one caught by two different cameras. But who knows? This is one of the cameras. This is the other one, yeah. Now this is quite big, so it might be the same thing that we have seen in on that camera from Puebla volcanoes. But actually here it's obvious it's much more clear, yeah. Now, after we heard what that physicist Michio Kaku told us, that they have the possibility to discharge the energy, yeah? Now this is from another camera from Mexico, yeah? This is the time lapse. It's Cancun. Now, first time when I've seen these kind of beings, like, I don't know, 2 years. It's on my clip, on my channel, on YouTube channels, on the other, you can watch it. If I remember well, I put a title like International Sun Simulator Weaponized, or I don't remember, they weaponized the International Sun Simulator, something like this. Anyway, if you're gonna look on my channel, you're gonna find it. Now, and the site, it was from Ciudad de Mexico, Santa Fe. Now, let's think a little bit here. Is it possible to have lasers on the satellites? And maybe, as you can see, it comes from the sun. On that channel, the last days, that lady showed an FAA cam who catch the same thing, who caught the same thing, yeah? So, if you think about it, which is the probability that the big powers of the world, yeah? So we are talking about US, Russia, China, maybe Germany and France would have this type of technology, yeah? Now, of course, they start to manipulate the weather, yeah, for a long time, yeah? And, but behind the doors, between these powers, yeah, it should be an agreement, yeah, because nobody wants to have drought, yeah, for a long period of time, yeah, and nobody wants to have floods for a very long period of time also. This is not good for the economy. You will not have with what to feed your population, yeah? Now, with these energetic particles which are coming from the NIBIRU system, this kind of weather modification that they are doing, yeah, start to become unpredictable even for them, yeah, because they don't know. I mean, they must adjust of the new scenario, yeah. So they send the Parker Solar Probe, yeah, to see, maybe to measure the intensity of these energetic particles which are coming from Nibiru, yeah. Now these are bombarding the ionosphere and atmosphere as well, yeah. So in this process it will be like unwanted event, yeah, of what they are doing in the about the weather modification, yeah. So they must adjust, yeah, to the new situation. Now let's think a little bit, yeah. So I've told you it was 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago, yeah, when I've seen this for the first time. And at that time, it was, they were only on webcam de Mexico, yeah. So I said at the time, that in order to protect your underground military, deep underground military bases, you will measure the pressure between the tectonic plates and use these lasers to trigger earthquakes somewhere else, yeah? For example, if a tectonic plate, let's say, yeah, because I remember I've seen a post, I don't remember the channel. Anyway, the guy was talking about the earthquake that occurred on Indonesia, yeah? And in his comment, he said at one point that the people that they are living on Californian coast should be worried because they are on the same tectonic plate, yeah? So they should be worried about that intense earthquake, yeah? Because being on the same plate, it could happen it can happen in California as well, yeah? So at that moment, when I've seen this all over the webcam of Mexico, I said, maybe it's possible to trigger earthquakes in order to release the pressure between the plates, the tectonic plates, somewhere else, yeah? The earthquake will not occur on your soil. It will occur uh, in another country, yeah, or somewhere else. I don't know, in the middle of Pacific, yeah, or in the middle of Atlantic, I don't know, yeah, and it's gonna affect some other nations, not your people. Do you understand what I'm trying to say here? Now, if this is the case, all these great powers, they will do the same thing in order to protect their underground bases. Because you should keep them, yeah, for the people that they can rescue, yeah, for them, of course, the elite, and the people that they will put there underground, yeah. And to protect these underground bases, you need to trigger the earthquakes somewhere else, yeah. So the most vulnerable nations, yeah, will be, I don't know, the third world, and like we see here, South America, yeah. Now, I know it sounds cynical, but I believe this is the situation right now, because with this system here at the door, and with his changes, with his energetic particles, which will change all their projects, yeah, involved, which involve the weather manipulation, yeah, everything will be messed up. So maybe that's why the US in US we have seen those historical floods, and they say in those two states the agriculture will be affected in quite a dramatic way, and you're gonna see the food prices rising everywhere. And there's another problem here. Now, if you're gonna have problems with the agriculture, yeah, all around the world, some nations, they will not have the possibility to export food, yeah. to the other nations, yeah? So they will keep what they will produce for them because it will be shortage of everything, yeah? I don't know, vegetables, potatoes, whatever, yeah? Corn, you name it, yeah? So if this is the case, the food products will be will not be available for everyone, yeah? I mean, not even the countries that they will want to buy, yeah, for their citizens, they will not be able to do this because the great countries, yeah, which they supply the international market, will not be able to produce. Maybe this will be the case, and this makes me think at what is written in the Bible. In the Bible, it is written that the nations will rise against nations. Now, of course, they have their plan. Yeah, their plan is to use the Islam against the Christians. Yeah, it's already documented. You can find it on YouTube. It's the famous letter which was written by Albert Pike to his colleague, the Italian Count, I believe it was at the time, a guy Mancini, yeah? And Albert Pike described the three world wars, yeah? And the reasons for them, yeah? For the Third World War, he stated there that they will use Islam against the Christians. Yeah. After that war, they will bring the intent. Their intention is to bring all the humanity under the Luciferian doctrine. Yeah. So under Satan. Now, it's also written there that the few people that they will resist and they will not be agree with the new what? You see how these things come together, yeah? With the new what? New world order under Luciferian under Lucifer, yeah? Under Satan. You remember George Bush, the New World Order. Now, the New World Order and this movement to bring everybody under Satan control, of course, it's very old, yeah? Now, Bush became famous because it was that UN speech when he announced this publicly. Yeah. Now, of course, everything is going in this direction. Yeah. That's why we have what we have. That's why the Pope is false prophet. Yeah. That's why I've told you I believe they are paid for how many souls they can driven to perdition, to Satan, and their plan for the Third World War. Yeah. To raise the Islam against the Christianity. Now, I don't know if you think of Bible again and you think about that, those last 7 years of tribulation, well, it means it will be they're gonna succeed with this. Yeah. So, guys, I don't know what to tell you, but things are getting pretty nasty around, so and something else. Now, you have seen that violent earthquake that occurred in Alaska. Yeah. Now, I don't know what to tell you about that. It was triggered. It wasn't. Now, if you think about it, if you are not able to release the pressure somewhere else, yeah, on some other country, yeah, what you're gonna do? You're gonna trigger earthquakes on your nation, my friends. Preferably in the less habitable zones, yeah. Now, this should maybe it seems to you a little bit crazy, but if we think of 9/11, we can have a glimpse of what they are capable of. I don't know if how many people still believe that. I don't know how much they were, 8, 9 idiots. They were able to fly those planes into the buildings, and that with the Pentagon, which is unbelievable because I don't know if it's available at this time. It's a camera time lapse which shows a rocket, yeah, being fired towards the Pentagon, yeah, flying at, I don't know, maybe 1.5 meters, 2 meters high, yeah. So it's clear that to not be able to find the engines, the baggage, yeah, nothing, no part of a plane, yeah. I've seen that they continue with this idiotic movie, yeah, which is from time to time on National Geographic, and there is a guy, FBI agent, who is saying, who's saying at one point that that plane, because the plane hit the wall, it disintegrates. It disintegrated, yeah? Man, I mean, you must look at his face, yeah? When he's saying this, yeah? I mean, even a, I don't know, a 12-year old, I don't know, 14 years old child, yeah, cannot believe this stupidity, yeah? And it's clear for, I don't know, for how many, I believe, I hope for everybody, yeah, that the 9/11, it was a false flag, yeah? And it was a false flag because why they wanted to go to hang Saddam and to to occupy Iraq. It wasn't about the the oil, my friends. It was all about a Stargate, which is situated under the Temple of War, yeah? And if you don't know by now, make your homeworks and you will find that was the area the Sumerian civilization was developing, yeah? So the War Temple is constructed by them, yeah? Now, it's a Stargate underneath this temple, yeah? It was discovered like, I don't know, 1906 or something around this year, yeah? By a British archaeologist, yeah? Then Saddam said, okay, everybody out, and he puts his scientists to dig there, and it seems that the CIA find out that Saddam was trying to make this old Stargate to function, yeah? That was the moment when they choreographed this 9/11, so they're gonna have a reason to go to hang Saddam and to occupy Iraq, yeah? Now the same thing is with the Russians, the Russians occupied the Crimea not because they want to be, I don't know, some couple hundred kilometers more closer to the, I don't know, Ukraine and Romania and Poland and so on, and Turkey, and you understand? It seems that in Crimea it's another Stargate underneath a very old pyramid. Yeah. So this is all about with these big nations. Yeah. I don't know here. Here I don't know. In the weather manipulation, I'm sure they have an agreement. On these kind of things with the Stargates, yeah, I'm not so sure. Yeah. Because if you think about Georgie Bros and that those D-Wave computers which they are using to have access to parallel universes, and that idiotic idea that we're gonna go there and take their resources and bring it to our reality and this craziness, I'm not sure about this. But if you think that CERN gets money from almost all the nations in the world, so I don't know. Of course, if they will change informations about the Stargates that they have under control, because I heard another idiot thing, and a guy from the military that it was in that unit that they went to at this temple in Ur, and they said at one point that the scientists that they went there with the troops, with the U.S. military troops, yeah, they said, okay, let's dismantle this and move it to U.S. I mean, how idiot you can be. If you have a Stargate, yeah, that Stargate, it will be aligned, yeah, with another point in universe. Is not like a watch, yeah, your wristwatch, yeah, that you can take it off and give it to somebody else to wear it, yeah. I mean, how idiot you can be to think that you can dismantle a Stargate, yeah, take it, I don't know, and put it in the in the Oval Office